All right, welcome everyone to this webinar, and we've got a theme today that's pretty cut and dry, and hopefully one that's near and dear to all your hearts. It's making Coach Accountable a joy for your clients. You can see my kind of wordy subtitle, slightly offensive. Sorry, not sorry. Yes, it's a bit profane to say "goddamn" in there, but I mean, to repeat what you just said, there's something about having empathy for the kind of person, and I'm one of them, who looks at having to have yet another app, another login, another thing installed on a thing as more of a liability and an asset. And the whole point of this webinar today is to set you guys up, to arm you guys, to set the tone for what this is as not just value neutral or, reducing the pain of, the friction of having another thing to do and manage, but actually something that's really a powerful, useful addition to their experience being coached by you. So we're going to get right into it. I am your host. I'm John Larson. Most of you guys know me for one reason or another, but if you don't, I am the creator of Coach Accountable / just some dude. Not too important. But here's where we're going. So it's all about making Coach Accountable a joy for your clients. We've got a couple of rough categories that we're going to cover and get into. And without further ado, let's do that. Unless anyone has any comments or questions. Beautiful. Let's start with first impressions. Now, the first thing that anyone ever sees in their interaction with Coach Accountable and you as coach delivering your programs through this platform is the invitation email. I'm going to couch that with, there is one exception. If they come in by way of offering, signing up that way, that'll be their first experience, but that's fine. A lot of these lessons translate well into your setup of offerings too. So I want to show you about the invitation email that the system will basically send to new clients on your behalf. This really is their first contact, and so it really is your opportunity to set the tone for, well, what's this system all about? Why are we using it? Why should I care? Why should I manage having another login? Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. System, when you create a new account, a new client has a default message template for the invitation email. If you go to Settings, Message Templates, Invite New Client, here it is. Take a look. Now, I'm going to call myself out on this to say, this is kind of boring because it doesn't say a lot. It's accurate. It's pretty true for any new user of Coach Accountable, but it's not exciting. And in my defense, I can't possibly write a message for this that would actually be exciting and speak to the specifics of how you're going to act or the person that you're just now inviting to, because I just don't know. As an application creator, I'm making sort of very neutral language that is going to cover all cases. But that doesn't mean you can't improve on this tremendously. So let's have a little play at doing that, kind of crafting something a little more personable and human. Let's play with this a bit. So, the first, the generic tag is really helpful. But you might say something about what your first contact was with them. Did you talk with them yesterday or 2 days ago? We're making a template for everyone, but we can always customize this per person, which is a good thing. Great talking to you yesterday. You might say things about, what's the real personable element that you're doing? Of course, excited you decided to move forward, and let's agree. I agree. This is a great fit. Depending on the type of coaching you're doing, I recommend making some sort of nod to the kind of work you do and the kind of results you've gotten for people. Maybe you're an entrepreneurship coach, and you might want to say something to that. Maybe you're a career coach, and you might want to say something to that. Maybe you're a relationship coach or a dating coach. Speak to the very kinds of things that get them excited about what's the kind of thing that they can expect. They already know some of this, right? From having talked to you and engaged with you in the first place, checked out your website, whatever it is. But to re-presence it and bring it in like, okay, here's what we're doing. Let's move forward. We're going to do this thing, and here's what we got. So, and then bring it into where we're going to do. Here, there's real power in kind of being unapologetic of like, there's an app that's going to support this. We use it. And it's actually a good thing because, again, use your own language. But here I am putting more colorful language to, what is the point of all this? What can they expect? And then I'll go one step further to speak a little more to, hey, we're going to invite you to the system. So let's make sure it's actually worth going to. We're going to say we're already loaded up notes and some stuff in there. And then, of course, we'll have our usual magic link that allows them to get there, and some sort of signature backend thing. Hang on, and this letter is a lot more interesting. It speaks to the specifics of who you're working with and what this is about, and it's really your chance to sort of, again, tee up their first impressions. So I recommend that you thoroughly customize the message template that goes out to your clients. And then from there, you can always tweak what you need to fit the actual specifics when you're actually inviting a client. So let's look in and do that and go through the process of actually inviting a client. Let's add someone here, our client. Send that invitation. Okay, this is better than that generic one. Fill it in. Maybe I talked with her last week and I'm just now getting around it. Whatever, we can customize this here. And we will add this client. Invitation is sent. And then just client, yep, we get to customize anything else we want, add some profile extra if we tell someone client, and well, this looks pretty good. So let's go to Claire client's email. Oh, this is your client now. Oh, my coach just invited me to this thing. What's this? Okay, cool. I don't know if this is actually true yet. As the client, let's go in and see. Onward we go. And here's my first impression. Huh. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and this looks kind of boring, and there's nothing that speaks to me, nothing about why I should care about this. Some things were said, some promises were not met about the preloaded stuff. So that actually hints at, again, what I'll call the second part of this whole art of doing this, which is setting, make some improvements to the invite email, and now we want to really set the stage. So let's talk about setting the stage. And the words I have here are the starter kit course and a little loving attention. Those two things are what we're going to do. So let's go back and sort of, again, just kind of see, this whole exercise is really one in empathy about, like, okay, what are you putting your clients through? Is it something that really engages them, or is it like, okay, cool, I don't get it, I'm going to log out now, and I'm, there's nothing here for me. Tell me when this gets cool, coach. You never want to give them that experience. So back here on our side, let's try this again. Let's delete out Claire client entirely. And add her again. And again, we got good message here. Let's add this client. Whoops, I didn't mean to invite them actually, but whatever, close enough. You wouldn't invite them, but you instead set up some stuff so that they actually have something to look at that makes it make sense. I've crafted this starter kit course. We'll just give a quick glance at it. We'll go into the nuances of this by actually experiencing it from the client's perspective, and I'll sort of break down why these are good and what works about them. But all this is basically a sort of, let's put some things in there so that this actually makes sense to them, particularly about what they've already talked to with you and what they've already, training them to use the system and actually see it as a valuable part of the experience. So let's go back and add Claire to this course. Totally hidden, start it right away. And now it's in motion. And now we'll send that invitation email.
So would you do that if you
So meanwhile, back in Clarify and send the email. She's got the invitation, click to get started. Onto my account. Again, here we are, first impressions. Okay, overview, that was an action deal. All right. Cool. I wonder what this is. All right. So now we get our client actually doing something and sort of playing what it's like to click around and do something. And by the magic of the starter kit course that I've set up, we've got a nice little bit of interactivity too. Okay, when that action is complete, we got this message here. So I'll give you guys a minute to read. Again, we're kind of setting the tone of what this is for, why actions are going to be useful. Stop doing that video. All right. Sketch from long ago. Pretty funny, actually. All right, well, pretend we just watch this whole thing, and it's sort of like a, this is what you might do is like make a quick little video of you talking to them or something meaningful to their work that they're going to be doing with you, something that tees it up. And again, I just got kind of creative, like, okay, watch this video, and oh, now there's a new worksheet assignment. So now we've gotten our client to do a worksheet too, and just sort of get a sense for this. And again, it's our opportunity to, we've got their attention. We can kind of give them a sense for what's this all about and what kind of things this is going to do. We're training them to use the system in kind of a cool way. And like I said, you'll be able to make this very meaningful to the actual work you do, to the actual sort of assignments you want them to start in on, or the materials you want them to watch or look at or listen at. So now that's done. And then, oh, cool. Here's another thing. Again, so much of this is just very contrived, and I wouldn't expect anyone to necessarily know to do these things, but these are kind of forward scripts that you can kind of take for your own to sort of parlay on our expertise of the system and our sort of expertise on user onboarding and user interface to sort of get someone oriented and have their mind wrapped around it. So here we continue on with more contrived stuff that you guys can kind of copy and sort of mold and make your own. Let's get to our next appointment. And again, this is sort of well-crafted to be dripping with empathy. Like, hey, don't forget to do it, but if you need to take some time, no worries, and just, you can kind of play with the language and craft it. One thing that's great about all this contrivance, and one thing you might be thinking is like, John, I thought CoachAccountable was to be such this engine of automation and hands-off and just set it and forget it. And yes, that is true. And that's why it behooves you to do this really well-crafted just one time. And then it becomes something that you can do over and over and over with all your clients. Sort of put that human touch in, but then have it duplicate to the extent that it is appropriate. Okay, so we gave a new action assignment, scheduled a new appointment. We gave a little bit of a nod to, here's how to do this, by the way. So we're helping our client at every step to feel at home, to feel comfortable here. Okay, overview tab. Maybe I should put some bolding in here and a little more formatting, bring my art to it. Oh yeah, here it is. Guess I'll close this out. Schedule an appointment, okay. If you get someone to click this button, this whole thing should be intuitive enough to go, oh, cool, some reminders. Yeah, that's fun. Play around. And then they can do it. And then, oh yeah, I need to mark this complete. New action assignment. 10 jumping jacks. Well, what the heck? Anyone's free to join me. Kind of landing. Okay. Gotta have integrity, right? Just do what my coach said. Hopefully you can kind of give that kind of playfulness. That's good. Okay, the actions tab. Yes, let's mark that. Done. We did the heck out of that. And we're getting into a groove and a flow. That's it for today. Okay. Thanks for taking a few minutes. Hope you're feeling good. I am. Thank you. So I'm Claire Client, and I just had that experience. That was my first run. Oh, wait, there's one other thing that I want to do, because I forgot this part about I meant it when I said starter kit course, plus a little loving attention. Here's the last recommendation that I forgot to put in here, but it's not too late. As from the coach side of the house, let's go to our client, and let's add some session notes. Like I said, presumably, you've talked to them already. Maybe you had some sort of exchange at all. And the real underlying principle here is we want to load up their first run experience with CoachAccountable with touch points that are relevant to them. Have it be personalized so that they realize like, oh, I'm not just being shoved into some machine, some cold whatever, where I'm just like a templatey whatever, but this is something that is meaningful. Let's see now. Frankly, I forgot to have my notes loaded up, but I'm just gonna put that there. Okay, great.
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So one question, you had mentioned, part of this discussion is about how to make the clients comfortable with you and comfortable with the process and comfortable with the application.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that, I think, is being responsive to their needs and not cramming them down a super structured path sometimes. So one of the points of feedback I've received from a couple of clients as I've started to expose this to them is they'd really appreciate the opportunity to have like a snooze button on an assignment or something that allows them to keep it top of mind. And you've thought through a lot of this and clearly designed it in a way. So there may be a functionality where if they get an assignment like jumping jacks or whatever, and they're like, well, my boss is standing right there, I don't want to do that, but I want to remember to do that. Can I trigger a reminder in the future or postpone this to tomorrow? Do they have the ability to do that?
They can. Let's look at that real quick. Let me finish this thought with the session notes.
Sure.
Like I said, just sort of preloading with stuff like, oh, session notes. Oh yeah, here's from when we talked yesterday. Oh, great. All right, that's that. Now I'm back to you. Let me, from the coach's perspective, create an action item. Let's just redo the jumping jacks one. And here's part of the art of co-creating with your clients assignments that are going to work for them. To your point of, if they do need a snooze button, that means there was a whiff there, and that's fine because we can move with that. Do jumping jacks. Any project now. A due date, make sure it's reasonable. Reminders, yes. Oh wait, I'm in as client, excuse me. Let me go back to coach side of the house. Okay, great. Now let's get on action. There's what I wanted. One point here is both parties can make actions, which is nice. Here's what you have as a sort of lever as coach. Prevent them from modifying or deleting an action. In your case, sounds like it'd be appropriate to don't prevent them. Let them tweak it if they need to, no worries.
Does that option exist for like worksheets and other assignments, or is that just actions?
So this is one for metrics and worksheets only. Or, excuse me, metrics and actions. Worksheets are their own thing because they're of the nature of kind of less co-created, as in, both parties could sort of say, we're going to do this, and more of the, I as coach am assigning this to you. So here we go. But let's table that. We will look at the client's experience of dabbling with their worksheets in the way that you just mentioned.
Got it. Okay.
So we're going to let them do that. We're going to set reminders. We're going to volley it over to them. And meanwhile, back over at Claire's side of the house, she's got this action item. She's like, not right now. My boss is right there. Let me edit it. I'm just going to move this back. I need a little more time. And you know what? Let me make sure I get a reminder, just in time for this. And that'd be really great just so that I do it.
Okay.
Then this generates a comment. So you as coach get an actual notification of what happened, which is nice.
So that works for metrics and actions, but it wouldn't work for worksheets or files.
So let me show you the worksheet side of things. Let me go back to the coach side and give an assignment here. We'll just do the Y coaching worksheet. That's great. Sign it immediately. We could schedule that, do at some point, set some reminders. Maybe I want to be notified if it's almost late. That'd be great. Okay. Send it now. And then back in Claire's thing, she can't actually change the due date, as we'll see shortly. But she can set some reminders for herself if she needs to. And if the due date passes, this is a bit of a hack. I don't expect actually clients to pick up on this, but you might give them a sort of a pro tip if they're already in the mood. Say this was 2 days late. You'd be like, I can't do this, but let me just make one for tomorrow, -3 days, which sounds silly, but negative days before a due date is those many days after.
Mm-hmm.
So they can set a negative reminder if it's already late. Now, here's the thing. You have more power in this to sort of proctor it if you need to, and again, different than you can with actions. If the system will give you a notification when it's late, and then you can do something about that. You can drop them an email really quick and say, hey, what's up? Do you need more time? Are you struggling? It's a great time to reach out and give them some sort of coaching. But you can also modify it from your end in response to that sort of alert. Okay, let me just push this back for you. It's as simple as just go here, and as coach, you can, as the assigning party, push it back a week. So those are the sort of flexibilities you've got there.
Yeah, in my case, and I don't mean to monopolize anybody else's time, so I'll try to keep it brief. In my case, I have an ongoing, very active practice, and I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate this into it, because I think it adds a lot of structure. It's a nice single place for everybody to come to. But a lot of my clients are very senior executives, and we may give them like a best practice. Like, let's say it'd be great if every day you had a morning practice where you thought about these things. And they might, we might aspire to have them do that 4 days a week, but they want to be reminded every day because they're not sure which day they're going to do it. So in the current thing, if that's a worksheet, those kind of pile up on them, and they don't have the ability to cancel the days they don't want to do it, for example. So like, I guess what I was curious about, is there a way to make these assignments optional, or let them delete them themselves, or remove them from their queue? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. That's actually a feature that's been on radar now and then, and I count your asking as another vote for it. Basically, more client-controlled deleting of assignments. There's one aspect that might serve your situation, which is why, again, this hasn't been too pressing an issue. You can make a worksheet assignment that is itself self-assignable. So from the library, you might have a daily check-in sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, allow my clients to fill this out on their own without me first assigning it to them.
Okay.
That allows the client to then, from their side of things, let me hit refresh. Instead of, I now have a plus button. I, as client, can add a worksheet. I'm like, yeah,
got it.
Tracker. And they can begin it whenever they want to.
But that still doesn't send them the reminder proactively each day.
It can. So we're not going to go too deep in the weeds, but here's the doing or not doing of that activity is itself every day. Did you do it? Did you not? And the record of that is kind of a cool thing to see the trend, right?
Got it. So you
we make a metric with a daily reminder. And then that reminder becomes that trigger to like, oh yeah, let me go log in and actually fill it out. I'm going to say, yes, I did it, and fill it out. Or you can even, this is again really into the weeds, but we can show you how offline. We can make it so that when you do fill out the worksheet, it records a done for the day. And if you don't fill it out, it's a 0 for the day.
Got it. So, I apologize to everybody else. Thank you for indulging the question.
Oh no, you're good. You're unraveling. I mean, again, the whole theme of this is empathy for what people are dealing with, and what they struggle with, and taking out the friction and making it serve them versus like, they're all piling up and this sucks. So this is great stuff. Everyone else feel
sorry. I had another thought on that, is that you can just also build a course that all it is a daily little message. Hey, if you want to do your worksheet today, you can. And then it's not, necessarily anything piling up, but just a very easy course that you can just drop them into.
Yeah, I've done that. I use worksheets instead of a prompt. I was thinking it'd be nice to have it there waiting for them and have that be the prompt, but I can see now how the system's designed, and I get that. I do think it would be useful to have the coach be able to assign a worksheet as an optional worksheet where they could decline it if they wanted to, but that's future functionality.
Yeah, it's not too far off the reservation. Like, so quick trigger, and we clone it down the line. Bam, daily worksheet or daily reminder. That's fun to watch. All right. Very good. Moving on to the next thing. Let's see what we got. So that's our first impressions. There's the loving attention part. Take a little time to craft things specific to them. Have the starter kit do the heavy lifting of giving them a sequence and give them some common steps. Have the system guide them through these things. Let's look a little more at that starter kit, actually, just because it's kind of instructive to see some of the design. And don't worry, after this webinar, when this is published and the video is available, I'll make it so that there's a button by which you can install this exact starter kit course in your account and then tweak it to your liking. But there's a lot of good practices in this example. As we saw, action item mark complete, and then a little follow-up message. A file is assigned, and the closing out of that file after having watched it triggers a worksheet, and the completion of that worksheet triggers an action item. And the completion of the action triggers another action item, and so forth. Tomorrow, there's going to be a message that goes out at a kind of arbitrary looking time. It's a bit of smoke and mirrors to make it look a little more organic, but it can be kind of fun. There's some good stuff to just remind them to do the thing and help them out. Later on, we get to some other things, maybe down the line. Hey, here's some other tips for getting set up. So that's that. Let's now go to our next section. Oh yeah, here's one other thing. Keep it lean, especially at the start. Here's what I mean, and this is actually a very materially useful, relevant thing for me to bring up right now, because this is a brand spanking new feature. You can always, for quite some time, arrange the client tabs to minimize and streamline certain things. Maybe you're just not into using whiteboards ever, and you'll never track metrics. Don't recommend it because they're great, but some things you might want to turn off, and you can turn them off wholesale. Which means back over here for our client, oops, there we go. Certain things are pared down, they're missing. But now what you can do is on a per client basis, you can do that exact same paring down, which might actually be a useful practice when you're just starting someone out. Maybe you don't want to overwhelm them, especially an executive type who's too busy to deal with any sort of like noise on the signal. You can go to the page arrangement, and then you can customize it by basically saying, okay, here in week 1, we're only gonna do these 3 things. We'll keep the streaming overview because those are nice in general, but that's it. We're just gonna tweak it so that it's super streamlined, and as they get ready for it, we'll throw metrics into the mix. And later on, maybe we're gonna start encouraging them to journal, and we'll throw those back into the mix. You can make it customized to every given person and then have them actually grow in complexity as they're ready for it and as your coaching actually needs it. And that's all I got on first impressions. Moving on to setup tips. What I want to say about setup tips in general is that I'm not talking about you doing setup of people, but more these are tips you can give to your clients to actually set themselves up as a one-time thing, low friction, but that'll help them integrate into the whole thing and find it smoother. So we got 3 of them. Calendar sync is our first one. So you want to encourage your clients, if you're going to use appointment scheduling, hey, when you got a minute, go sync this up with your calendar. Do so by clicking on the My Account page and go to Calendar Sync, and then just follow the steps, Google or Outlook. And then with a few clicks, you'll have it so that these things that are scheduled either by you or me, our appointments together, and this applies to group appointments as well, will magically appear in your calendar, making it all the easier to sort of fit coaching into your life. I've put some language around this in the course as well, which is a nice way to, again, sort of speak to it in a way that's not just giving them a to-do, but give them some of the context and reasoning behind it. Now you're here. Now I just put this as like day 7 in the starter kit, so automatically will drip to them when it's appropriate. Again, we don't want to overwhelm too much, so lacing it out can be quite nice. And this is, again, just some sort of sample language that you're free to crib from entirely and just kind of making your own, but again, just sort of ease them into, here are some things you can do to make it easier. The next one is adding it to the home screen on devices. We've got a blog post about this that goes into detail, but another thing that I would just want to presence is that you should let them know, hey, on your smartphone or tablet, to make it really easy for you to access it wherever with one click, you can just add it to your home screen. No app to find in the App Store or download or anything to sort of be invasively installed or do updates and versions and whatever. They can just do a quick little trick, and then it's available as a little one-tile click from there. And my camera just went off. Hold on a second. So that allows them to, again, take some friction out of the process of showing up to participate in using this platform as part of their experience of being coached by you. One of the things that's really clutch is you advise them to check the keep me logged in button, which means that they're truly one click and don't have to fart around with like, what was my login again? That's all handled for them if they have their own little device, remember who they are and keep them logged in.
Hey, John, on that one, that is on the iDevices, that's only if they're using Safari, right? If they're using like a corporate browser on their phone, it won't work, or if they're using Chrome, right?
True. I do believe that Chrome, actually, I've heard that Safari has the sort of native support for add to home screen, and that Apple kind of like says like, sorry, Chrome, you can't do it, even though it's technically very easy. I don't know that, using alternate browsers allow that sort of add to home screen functionality.
Right. Okay.
But that's a good one. That's a good gotcha. And then one other final tip of setups, add my system email to your contacts. Maybe. If you guys don't know about system email addresses, this is kind of to your personal preference. And what I mean by that is you're probably going to have email communication with your clients outside of CoachAccountable. They can email you and you'll email them back if they have quick questions or need for clarification. And that's fine. But you might have a sort of standard where it's like, hey, to streamline everything and to make it, all sort of nicely documented, so we have a clear record of all the coaching goodness that happened for everything, either for your own souvenir or for the people who, hired me to work with you, that routing through CoachAccountable is possible through system email addresses. So you might actually say, don't email me at this email address, please email me at this other email address, so that it gets tracked in CoachAccountable. We can have these conversations by email and or by CoachAccountable seamlessly, both. And where the setup for this is under settings, system email addresses. For clients to me, this whole thing basically shows you email addresses of how you can email your client and have that be tracked by CoachAccountable, but also vice versa. Your clients can email you and it's tracked by CoachAccountable. So let's send this email to our client. And again, default text here, but this from address, magic system address, but we should send messages to me. Add it to your address book for using this later. And then my client gets an email that basically lets them know, okay, here's how to email my coach. Oh, great. So I actually use contacts in CoachAccountable and Gmail, so I don't know how this works. But then the messages get routed through here. So that's an alternate way where you can have your email exchanges go as they normally would from everyone's preferred email client, but be tracked here in CoachAccountable is a nice way of keeping the documentation going effortlessly, more or less. And those are your three setups. Basically, at whatever step you want, you can kind of slow drip them or just give them a 1, 2, 3, get her done, and then they're done and handled, and it's sort of integrated with their usual flow of doing things.
John, one quick question.
Yeah.
And the system seems to be pretty email centric, and in many cases I'm trying to coach clients to get out of their inbox. They love the text functionality. They love the ability to interact with the system via text or respond to metrics or action items via text. Is there a way to have all the interaction happen via text and have it completely be un-email oriented? Like, can we gateway messages to text only?
There's no way to do that, and I don't know how to do that without having a bajillion phone numbers.
Okay.
So the system's very peculiar in that if it texts you something, that's sort of like the context of the conversation. And then when you reply, it'll be interpreted in that context. Like if it says, hey, track your metric for today, anything you come back is like, I bet this is a number, I'm gonna totally record it for today.
Okay.
Arbitrary messaging is much harder to sort of parse accurately. And so it's not really possible.
Okay.
As far as I know, but if anyone thinks of a good idea, to logically make that happen, it's something I'm not opposed to.
Okay.
Ooh, good one. All right, let's move on to our third section, getting in and getting out. One of the biggest pain points, I think, for anyone when it comes to using a new app or a new platform is kind of what I alluded to in that wordy subtitle of the talk itself. Like, oh God, another goddamn login to manage, and like, how do I get in? I forgot my login. The system won't let me in. What am I doing? We want to take that off the table entirely if we can. And there's a couple of tricks that you basically can to hedge against that sort of thing. So like I mentioned in the setup thing, adding to home screen is a big leg up, especially if they do that, encourage the keep me logged in thing, because that means on their smartphone or tablet, which is their own personal device, it's pretty clear and cut and dry how to get in. It's just one click from the home screen. And if they're automatically logged in, they'll never have to worry about, oh gosh, what was my username and password again? Hey coach, I'm logged out. I hate this stupid thing. We want to take that off the table. So those two bits of encouragement and guidance will go a long way towards doing that. Same thing for on their desktop. If it's not a shared computer, they can certainly keep check the keep me logged in thing, and then many clients will just outright forget what their username and password is for a good long time because they never need to know it. Another one is the login widget on your own site. As you know, with custom branding, when you're setting that up, you can also get a widget that is embeddable on your website here under System, Branding, the login widget. This little snippet of script you put anywhere on your home page. So even if they totally forget CoachAccountable.com as a place to go to log into their portal, hopefully they're familiar enough with your website and they've got a sort of prominent enough, hey, clients, log in here, so they can log in there from your site. And then again, it takes a little friction of like, where am I going to get into this thing? Fine. Keep those login links in place is another one, which is easy enough to do, but you don't want to accidentally do it like just clobber them. In your message templates and other parts in the system, you've got things like a worksheet notification, for example. Dear client first name, I've sent you a worksheet name, please complete it by due date, logging into your account, login link, best regards. Much like the invitation email, I encourage you guys to customize these all to have and be a little more like, ooh, cool, there's some life-giving stuff. But the login link is especially clutch for these ones because for a worksheet notification and reminder, that login link automatically logs them in and brings them right to the worksheet. Again, we're taking friction out of it. We're taking guesswork out of it. Like, oh, what was my login again? I couldn't figure it out, so I didn't do my homework. Sorry, coach. You could accidentally clobber this. Don't. And then finally, helping them when they can't log in. Sometimes they just don't know, and if they get into that bind and they feel uncomfortable, one, you want to advise them to use the login helper, which they can do. Forget your username and password. I mean, for most people that are web savvy enough, they can just kind of use this. But sometimes, for whatever reason, this doesn't work too, and they're just like, I panic, I'm not sure what's going on. You have one more superpower up your sleeve to help them pretty effortlessly if they're saying, hey, coach, I don't know how to do this, and the login helper's not working. Or even if they don't say that second part, just send them a quick message. That login link also has the magic power of when it's clicked from their account, will automatically log them in, which we'll go see real quick. And I'm back in. All right, cool. So again, however you can be a support to take the whole hassle of logging in is another bit of making it a joy and at least not a hassle.
And that login link that you just gave, does that expire or is that always good?
It does expire. Once it's clicked, it'll never work again for security reasons. And those have a 7-day expiration limit on them as well.
Okay.
I'm in usage bound. Any other questions about getting in, getting out? All right, cool. Let's move on. Pitfalls to avoid. There are a couple little gotchas that are easy to avoid if you know to do them. So let's just go over some of the common ones. If you assign a worksheet, don't assign another action to complete the worksheet as well. It's redundant. You can imagine someone hitting complete on a worksheet and then getting a notification for the reminder that says, hey, this is late. And they say, it's not late, I totally completed the worksheet. Well, here's the thing. You can type whatever you want for an action. CoachAccountable can't necessarily parse the language to fill in the gaps, to recognize that the completion of some worksheet over here actually maps onto the completion over there. Things like that are common gotchas. Like if you make an action item, which we did earlier, called schedule an appointment. It's free text language. CoachAccountable doesn't necessarily know that you scheduled the appointment you were supposed to, so those kind of redundancies can be dangerous. So just know that actions and worksheets share so much in common in terms of keeping them in terms of an assignment that is completable. You mark it complete. There are notification reminders that can be set for both. There's a trigger called, hey, this is now late, that will fire off. So there's absolutely no reason to have an action item to do something else in CoachAccountable unless you're having it be a useful prompt somehow. Another notable mention of things, journal about. If someone goes over here and says like, oh, well, cool, let me go journal, and then they mark it complete. That's great, but the system doesn't necessarily know to mark this one complete. So again, that would be redundant. The way to deal with that is we would recommend you wrap a journaling exercise into a worksheet. Let me do it from the clients or the coach side of things. It's in place. And then voila, we've got the magic of a journaling assignment that has actually got a date and a reminders and a sense of what it is to complete it, and you'll get notified when they mark it complete. So that's a nice way to sort of, again, eliminate redundancy that can be frustrating in terms of assignments and completion. Next one up is demoralizing metrics. Let's go consider this frazzled too much client that I set up. One of the metrics that I have seen and highly advise against, whoops, I need to reinstate metrics because they're all turned off, is what I call the red triangle of despair, where like you're building towards something and everyone's check-ins like this, I'm not getting anywhere. And the gap keeps getting wider and wider between the goal and the what so, and it's just plain demoralizing. Like this one, work on a novel. Maybe there's a lofty ambition, like, yeah, I want to write 250 pages in the next 6 months. Well, if after a while you notice that that's not a realistic thing, don't make your clients suffer through that sort of thing. Like reevaluate, reassess, delete it, change the target, play a different game. Make sure you're playing games worth playing versus ones that highlight like a sense of like inefficacy and like, I'm just bad at this, I'm bad at coaching, maybe it's not cut out for me. The other one is a demoralizing metric would be to sort of do the wrong thing when it comes to targets. Say we've got a metric, and these are very powerful rating metric, you know, just on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about how this is going? It's tempting to think like, well, the target is 10. We want to get to 10 because 10 is great. Anything less than that, we could do better, so we're going for 10. What that means is everything under 10 is highlighted in red. And so that feels like, oh God, it's never enough for you people. Instead, again, from that same idea of games worth playing, you want to make the target line more what it's actually visually interpreted as is, this is the dividing line between, hey, things are all right, and ooh, we got a problem, we should talk. Make a target that gives a game where you could get into the green. There's room for actually exceeding beyond just like the, yeah, here's what we're going for, but even better. Makes it visually more pleasing and like, oh, okay, cool, I can win this game, not like I'm always behind. So those are sort of like some of the arts of designing metrics so that they're winnable games. Not pie in the sky, I'm never gonna get there. Not just so easy, the bar is so low I couldn't trip over it. Although this has its own merits, that's not terribly bad. But a game worth playing. You're not sure you're gonna win, but you're not guaranteed to fail either. And then finally, too much. It's easy to get excited and pile on the stuff called like, oh, and then you can do this, and you can do this, and then you can do this. But if you're getting your clients to a place where they're used to seeing a lot of red in terms of what's next, it gives a sense of like, I suck at this. Just like the metrics where everything's in the red, there's I'm getting snowed, I must be bad at this. This coaching isn't for me. So you want to evaluate and sort of do a retrospective and kind of keep it in a nice little middle ground called not too easy that they're not growing or stretching, but not so hard that they always feel behind the 8 ball and like, oh, of course there's a million things we could do and I'm not doing any of them. I'm only doing 7 of them, and that's shy of 1 million. There's that balancing act where you can kind of look for yourself. How's it going? What's the overall color code on their overview? And reel it, dial it back, or ramp it up accordingly. Because too much is demoralizing. And in the world of reminders and notifications, as you know, on a per action basis, we can make as many reminders as we want. There's an art to getting just the right amount, have them be timely, not too much, not too little though. That actually, we want to push them forward and remind them and keep present what they said they were committed to doing, but not harp on them. Similarly, we've got these controls here under notifications, where again, we can kind of set what action notifications are appropriate. Maybe we don't want to notify our clients when an action becomes late. Maybe we can just hear for ourselves, and then we can give them a gentle like, hey, what's up? Do you need more time or not? It's kind of all in the style of and the density of what you guys assign to your people and how you can kind of give them the just right amount. It's not too fine a line, but you can kind of tell if someone's getting snowed and annoyed or not, and then course correct accordingly. Yeah, the other one is too many metrics to report on. It's common, especially in sort of a business coaching sense, where there's like 7 or a dozen key performance indicators, and they all matter. They're all great. And you ask them to report on those numbers every single day or every single week. That can be overwhelming in one of 2 ways. It can be just outright overwhelming. It's too much to report on or too frequently. Okay, fine. You've got the frequency controls to dial it back to make sure that it's a meaningful, coachable quantity rather than just like too high definition where people's whole experience of being coached by you is just reporting numbers and running minutia. But you can also consolidate. If you've actually truly got a dozen metrics that are worth tracking at whatever frequency you've decided are truly worth tracking, maybe not every day, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once a month. You don't want to really fire off 10 email reminders for 10 different metrics. Each of one needs to be reported differently, separately as one reply via, again, text or email. What you can do instead is consolidate them into a check-in worksheet and then have those things be its own little tidy ritual of going down the line, filling in all the numbers, and then hit complete, and then those pipe into your metrics. That's a topic unto your own, but a powerful way to sort of streamline things and again, make it more of a joyous, oh, this feels like a cool, slick system of where I'm reporting what actually is important and then moving on from there.
John, this is Laura. Can I ask you a question related to that?
Yeah, you bet.
I put myself in your fitness tracker course, and I put a client wanted to do it as well. And in that course, on that first day of the worksheet, the metrics seem to get created automatically and initiated. Mm-hmm. Am I missing something simple as far as being able to do that myself? Is that?
Yeah, so look at the course design. We've got the day 1 worksheet, mm-hmm. and then hanging off of it as a follows item are these metrics. So this is the mechanics of following items called the completion of a preceding item then causes the dispatching of whatever follows it. Mm-hmm. So to create one of these, if we had another one, we could just kind of put it right here and it says, like as you see in this hover text, add new metric to follow the completion of this worksheet. So I was able to toss off this course in a matter of minutes by just, dragging a bunch of these things on here.
So that's on the day 1 worksheet only, and then the rest of them just pipe it in.
Correct. So what I actually did is I made the worksheet on day 1. I cloned it down the line so that it's an everyday worksheet, and then dragged onto the first day 1 the metrics.
Got it.
I'm actually kind of considering revising this pre-bundled course because it's actually kind of dangerous. Because what happens if someone just doesn't fill out their day 1 worksheet, but is really good about all the other ones? they never got set up. The metrics never got set in motion, which is a real pisser. So I might revise this one to actually have the metrics go out in not quite as slick a way, Laura, as you noticed. And just they all go out at the same time, and that's that. So that there's not that sort of weak point, Achilles heel kind of thing.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe there's incentive, knowing that possibility exists. Maybe there's incentive to having them assign it and do the first worksheet with them. And
right on.
And then it's rolling.
It does kind of have a little bit of sizzle for sure. If you are with them and then they mark it complete, like, okay, now go to your metrics. Bam, look at all these graphs that magically appeared. We're going to track these. This is the game over the next 6 months or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting a lot out of it personally as far as the feedback on the metrics themselves, but want to be able to duplicate that without having to go in and create a metric for every, set of worksheets that I create. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is the power of courses for sure. Anytime you have a collection of worksheets that are linked to or a collection of metrics that are standard for your clients, you don't want to do those setup one by one. Make a course as simple or as complex as you need it to be. Brilliant. All right. I think that's all from the too much and the pitfalls. Anyone else have any sort of pitfalls they've ever encountered, or whether solved or not? All right, cool.
I've got a couple things that have come up from clients.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I suspect they would be feature changes, but you've surprised me by hiding some things in there that I've missed in the past. So one is, in my practice, I often go into a larger business and they've had stuff going on for some time. So the beginning phase is an assessment, but also taking in all the material from the client that they've previously worked with other coaches on. So maybe we're getting old assessment vehicles, we're getting old, organizational 360 feedbacks, or, their own internal HR processes. And the clients have said, that one of their big turnoffs for getting into the system in the first place is
clean slate.
What's that?
Clean slate. What happened to my history?
Well, they want to upload that stuff. They want me to understand it. They want to get out of email where they're emailing that stuff back and forth because of privacy concerns. And sometimes this is the CEO and they don't want the HR or the IT folks having access to some of this information, or they want to keep it controlled. So it's good to put it in the system, but it's clunky. So if they've got 40 files to load and they've got to load every one by one, they lose interest in like 3 files. So I'm wondering, is there a way that you could do a bulk load, and like, can they instead of picking 1 file to upload in the file system, can they pick 10 or 20 and have them all load up as individual files?
You twist my arm. Okay. I remember an exchange with either you or Keenan about like drag to drop anywhere onto the screen. I'm not committed to doing all those things, but multi is not terribly hard. So okay. I reckon that can be in the next week or so.
That would be awesome. I think it would help a lot to get them in and feel like it's responsive to them.
Right on. It'd be hypocritical for me not to respond to that kind of thing, especially when it is programmatically such low-hanging fruit. Good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right. Let's move on to our final section, giving them the good stuff. We've kind of talked a lot about the negative stuff and how to avoid it and take the friction out of it. But now let's give some real magnetic draw to what this is all about. And again, some substance that makes them clear, like, oh yeah, it's really a nice part of this coaching experience. So much of my sort of underlying ethos behind the design of Coach Accountable is to have coaches be able to give their clients more than just conversations. So much of coaching is an ephemeral experience. They're good ideas that if you don't have something to make them come to life or be, applied to one's life and make an actual difference, they're good ideas that just fade. And there's not much to show for it. So this whole tangible medium for structuring and documenting a coaching relationship gives you this opportunity to give them this trove of really good stuff that has them be like, wow, I just worked with my coach for 3 months already, and look at all the stuff that's piled up. This is great. It's a souvenir both for their own reflection, but also to pass on to the higher ups who hired you, or any other ways of like sort of bringing to the life the actual goodness that came out of those conversations. So we've got a couple of things and categories of this. The first one is the treasure trove of insights that they'll revisit. We dabbled a little bit with creating session notes. I didn't even paste in the right ones, but I think session notes are an awesome thing to share. Even if you want to take your own private session notes that are not necessarily for your client's consumption, you should make a separate version that is just sort of the executive digest of some quick nuggets for them to sort of latch onto and have as reinforcement, this great souvenir from the conversation itself. The phrase I love to use is, it's your sort of editorial director's cut of like, these are the things I want you to take forward from this conversation, giving them to them on a silver platter. This is not only nice as a, hey, I just talked to my coach 20 minutes ago and bam, right here in my email, I've got this thing. This is nice. But it also, that accumulates. So if someone's worked with you for 3 months, if they've got a dozen little, tidy little nuggets of wisdom, and packages of, various insights that were worth carrying forth, that's a real value add that you give to them that sort of is a triumph over against the tyranny called like, it was just a conversation, I eventually forgot it.
Hey, John, I have a question for you on session notes.
Yeah.
I love them. They're great. I use them a lot. But it seems like the auto save, like if you get interrupted and you close the window or the browser closes, it seems like the auto save doesn't work the same as with worksheets and other functions. Like I've lost several like pretty extensive notes where normally if you do more than a sentence or so, it auto saves it in the worksheets. Can we check that and make sure it's working the same way?
I can. It's used the same exact underlying code. One thing.
I've had that happen too, for what it's worth.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Is it just session notes too for you, Laura, or is it in particular? Or
I believe so.
okay.
I had it happen on both a browser on laptop and on phone, and simply got into. I mentioned it to John, and subsequently I've just got into the habit of clicking save. So every couple of paragraphs or a couple of bullet points, I'm saving manually.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and that does save my bacon a lot. But if I'm distracted or whatever, I still will. Especially like if I'll brief with like the chairman of the board and I'm madly typing, and then he asks me to take an action, and I get distracted. I've lost some stuff that I regretted. So it would be helpful to check that.
Did you explicitly close it out, or did you just come back to it later and then something didn't jive for some reason?
I have to pay more attention to how I'm getting distracted and what's actually happening. But I think in some cases the browser window gets closed, or a lot of times I'll do a clean sweep of the machine before I get into my next client session for confidentiality reasons. So I'll close out all the open windows, etc. Just something. It's a point of feedback. I don't know why. I've had great luck with everything else being able to save, but that one thing has some issues.
Cool. I'm on it. It's good to know. Thanks, guys. All three of you. It's got to be something. Good deal. All right. Second one, growing record of accomplishment. This is, again, kind of in the magic of making actions items that are kind of a winnable game. Make them significant. Make them useful. Have this past tab be this growing record of stuff that's actually kind of cool to look at. For your own sake and theirs. Here's the thing. They probably won't think to look back in it, but you can remind them. Or you can look at this, like if you're sort of at the tail end of your engagement and they're sort of on the fence as to whether or not to continue up and re-up for another 3-month session or something like that, you might want to just give these a quick look, and it's a great pace to just get your head on straight to come from a place of acknowledgement. Represent some of the big ones, let them know, what you're really proud of and what sort of things they've accomplished and have to show for it. Even if they don't know it, this record is valuable. So that's some more good stuff that you can do it. And again, if it was just a bunch of conversations going back and forth and emails about like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Hey coach, I got that done. You wouldn't quite have it readily available. Next one, like I said, a game worth playing. Not too much, not too little. Something that stretches them without getting them into the panic zone and gives them good things to show for it. I look to metrics as and that sort of dance between, a target that is too high or a target that's too low as that game worth playing. It's winnable and gives you a sense of real accomplishment. That game worth playing should translate into a number of metrics that, again, at the tail end of a number of months working together, you should be able to look back and say, like, here you go. Look at what happened. Look at how things actually moved for you. And then finally, routine and I dare say life-giving feedback. There's something that we're all kind of trained, unfortunately, when it comes to filling out things in digital media and hitting submit and sending it off to ether. There's this feeling like, is anyone reading this? Does it really matter? I know I did it right. I got my cookie. I'm an A student at heart and did what I was supposed to do. But the flip side of that coin is, wow, another human out there actually cares. Those words that I typed were actually read by someone, comprehended, commented on, and I know that because they commented on it. CoachAccountable makes it dead simple for you guys to, oh, where did my email go? As coach, comment on things, which I don't have my coach's email open right now, so let me just do it from the client side. But there's this micro conversation that can happen over emails that you just hit reply. And let's say I'm coach or commenting on the worksheet of my client. This email thread goes back and forth very easily. It's lightweight commentary that sort of builds a conversation between parties. And again, it's that reinforcement that like, wow, when I interact with this system, when I do my work, my coach is paying attention. And my coach is giving me feedback that is life-giving and worthy and lets me sort of know that these efforts aren't just some other thing to do, which we've all been trained by schools like, something to do, and then I get my A and I move on. But again, a real person is pulling for me and cheering me on and so forth. So that's a nice opportunity to sort of do what I call benevolent stalker time, which again, you can look in at your client and see what they're up to and give little comments and stuff. It makes the coaching stuff real and it makes it satisfying. So don't ever hesitate to take the opportunity, whether it be from a 10-second quick little missive like this, to let your client know that there's a real human over there who's actually paying attention to their stuff and at a level of detail that would be very hard to do without creepy oversight. Otherwise, this sort of little objective, very neutral, like grounds for and shared workspace for progressing through the work that is distinguished as worth doing in the coaching conversations. It's a really nice forum for those little micro touches and exchanges to go on in the space between those sessions. And there you have it. That's everything I have to say about making CA a joy for your clients. These 5 categories allow you to sort of really polish your presentation of the system to go from it being just another thing to have a login to an actual true value add that is actually really helping the coaching process to be the best that it can be and a really life-giving, interactive one, supported one at that. To you at home who are watching the show, hope you got some good nuggets out of it, and we'll see you next time.